Thank you. I'd like to just ask everyone to take their seats so we can get started. Mr. Ryan.
And you asked me, I said, who are you? And again, who are you?
Mr. Ryan.
That's not right.
We would love to be able to hear from you. We're going to get started with the forum.
Would anyone like an agenda before we begin?
Oh, terrific. So Kathy Leonard's going to hand out agendas. Give us a couple more minutes. Thank you.
It's passed around now. You may have to share agendas with your neighbors. You don't have enough. So I'll give it to every other person. Okay, we're going to share. We got one more.
Okay, so it sounds like
Lord, I got the wrong thing.
handouts are complaint forms. So please give us a couple more minutes. I think we just pulled from the wrong stack. I'm going to call this meeting to order.
I apologize, I didn't have my glasses on. You still may have to share with your neighbors. So what I gave you was a complaint form, and the commissioners will explain that.
So Kathy Leonard is distributing all the agendas that she has. For those of you who received a complaint form, it was from a different pile. You might be happy to hold on to it.
Get some over on this side, please.
Over here. I'm not sure that there are enough for everyone, so we ask that maybe you share with your neighbor. Okay, I think that we're probably well enough organized that we can go ahead and get started. It is 1:12. Can everyone hear me? That's good. We're going to go ahead and get started. I think that we're asking you to share with your neighbors. I'm not sure that there are enough. My apologies. So, it is now 1:13. I'd like to offer you all a welcome on behalf of the Police Commission. I am the newly elected chair of the commission. My name is Regina Jackson. Thank you for being here. This is an extraordinary outreach and showing. I'd like to provide a little bit of overview for this forum. First off, as police commissioners, I just want to give a general overview of our duties and powers. As you know, most of you helped to put us in this position by the creation of the 2016 voter enacted change to the city police officer discipline. It's our job, providing oversight of the Community Police Review Agency, to have the Police Commission work to ensure that misconduct complaints filed against police officers are investigated by third-party, non-police investigators. The Police Commission holds final authority over proposed discipline when the CPRA, the Community Police Review Agency, and Internal Affairs disagree on the results of the investigation. Is everybody clear on that? No. Okay. So, when there are police misconduct allegations, there are two entities that do the investigation. One is IAD, which is part of the regular police department. The other is the Community Police Review Agency, which we have oversight for. If at some point the results differ between IAD and the CPRA, then we are responsible to enact whatever the investigation is. That would be a discipline committee that's put in place. So it gets elevated to us in that case. So what I didn't do was to have everyone check in for a roll call. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to do that now. So Commissioner Ahmad?
Present.
Commissioner Smith?
Present.
I myself am here, Regina Jackson. Commissioner Dorado?
Here.
Commissioner Crowder?
Here.
We have a quorum. Commissioner Harris is absent, and for most of you, we recently had Commissioner Benson, she resigned. Excuse me. I'd also like to point out that one of our new city council members is in the audience. I'd like to welcome Nikki Fortuna Bass. Thank you for being here, Councilmember Bass. So I'd like to go over the purpose of the hearing and thank for the incredible hours of work in creating this opportunity, the Coalition on Police Accountability. They have provided us history, background, insight, recommendations, and we will continue to need your support. The purpose of the hearing is to ensure that future changes in policy adequately address the concerns raised by the unhoused Oakland residents of the city of Oakland. As members of the public most affected by police action, your testimony is crucial. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your experiences are. We want to understand what recommendations you may have for us. Following this hearing, the Police Commission will review the testimony that's been received, and we will write a hearing report. This report will serve as a first step in drafting new policy, and it will be used as a foundation for whatever changes in policy will be proposed as a result of this hearing. This is our first hearing as a police commission, and we expect to have several more on acute issues that are affecting the citizenry of Oakland. I know that we are called a police commission, but I really feel like we are a people's commission, and so I'm hoping that all of you citizens that have something to share will do so today. There will be other opportunities afterwards, but I'd like to identify that we normally have a 2-minute time clock in our commission meetings. We recognize that this is quite a bit more important, so we have identified 3 minutes as our general allocation, but if there are people who have testimony that will potentially go over, there are breakout rooms for you to share a more expansive explanation of the issues that you want to raise. I'd also, excuse me, I'd like to say that we have two microphones? Okay, thank you. We have 2 microphones. There is one that is available for people that might not want to be videotaped, and it is the one that is directly back here, just behind the black line. For all those that don't have a problem being videotaped, you can step forward to this microphone. We have two testimonial assistants, Henry Gage and, is John here? Okay, so we have one testimonial assistant, Henry Gage. Speakers are requested to be mindful that, staying within the 3 minutes is just really important because we only have a certain amount of time here and we want to be able to capture your comments and your concerns and your recommendations in as efficient a way that, we're hearing you. There is scribe received testimony that will be reviewed along with all other testimony that we will use to draft the Commissioner's hearing report. I also want to acknowledge that we have students from the UC Berkeley Goldman School of Public Policy. Anyone who completes a survey after presenting their survey receipt will be able to receive a stipend. Please check in with Ann Jenks. Her hand is raised right now, and this will happen after the forum.
You guys see my phone on the floor.
I would like to recognize our host pastor, or on his behalf, Pastor Anthony Jenkins from Taylor Methodist, for allowing us to use the space. We kindly suggest that the first speaker called during the open forum is going to be, because Pastor Jenkins is not here, is going to be Pastor David Brazil. We are getting ready to transition to the public hearing, and we are grateful that Pastor David Brazil gave his assistance in securing this space, and we want to have him provide, we want him to provide a liturgy of safety to set a foundation, setting the basic ground rules used by organizations to create safe spaces for community dialogue. And with that, I'd like to thank you. Thank you, Taylor Memorial, for welcoming us into your home. Again, thank the Coalition for Police Accountability for coordination from beginning to end. We want to thank the Plymouth United and Skyline United churches for their lunch volunteers. They were pretty magnificent, don't you think? As well as Semi Freddy's and Whole Foods for their generous donations. And for all the volunteers who participated in making this event a reality. Thank you. Please come forward.
Thank you so much. Greetings, commissioners and beloved family. My name is David Brazil. Good afternoon. I'm proud to welcome you into my church home of Taylor Memorial United Methodist Church, where I'm the community outreach minister under Pastor Anthony Jenkins, who extends his invitation of hospitality. He's very grateful to have you all here, so please find yourselves welcome at Taylor. And Pastor would also want me to let you know that services are tomorrow at 10. So when we think about the sort of crisis that's going on in what so many of our unhoused neighbors are dealing with, those of us in the Christian tradition think about the commandment that we have to love our neighbors as ourselves. And when Christ gives this teaching, somebody, a wise thinker, says, "Who's my neighbor?" And that's when Jesus tells the story about the Good Samaritan. So the neighbor is somebody who's been beaten up by robbers and left for dead. Right? And we're living in a form of society where a lot of people have been beaten up by robbers and left for dead. They've been beaten up by the robbers of capitalism. They've been beaten up by the robbers of unchecked development. They've been beaten up by all kinds of robbers. Right? That's the truth. And that's the pathetic truth that we talk about in this town. We're going to get real about this crisis. But I'm not here to preach a sermon. That's again at 10 a.m. tomorrow. But I have been asked both to issue that welcome for Pastor Jenkins and also to share the liturgy of safety that we've developed in some of my church communities that I pastor. And so this is something that we do because I pastor a church in North Oakland, Agape Fellowship, where we don't call the police. We have joined a national pledge along with First Congregational Oakland and some other churches. We don't call the police, and we're figuring out what it means to create community safety beyond policing. And in order to do this, we all have to take responsibility, no longer outsourcing our safety to the police, but looking to our own communities to create safety. And the way we do this is by creating collective responsibility. So in Agape, we have some basic ground rules, and then we ask people to create the safe space together. So what I'll do is I'll share our ground rules with you. Thank you so much. And let this be a teaching for other spaces you can bring in. But I'll share some ground rules with you, and if you are able to assent to these, at the end I'll ask the whole audience to say, in a call and response to me, I'll say, and you'll repeat back to me, I will create a safe space. And so that way, everybody in the room will have agreed that we can agree to these rules, and we can create a safe space. So we say, to create a safe space, this is a sober space. We ask that if you are drunk or high right now, that you leave. Because people are dealing with recovery issues. We ask that you don't shout. We ask that you don't fight. We ask that you don't use hate speech. And we ask that you don't call the police. So those are the ground rules that are creating collective safety for our communities. So if you can assent, I will say, I will create a safe space, and then you all say back to me, I will create a safe space. So I will create a safe space.
I will create a safe space.
The space is safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So again, I ask you if you'd like to share, Steve Henry Gage, okay, and step to the podium. And our first speaker is Commissioner Ahmad.
Good evening, everyone. Today, I'm Commissioner Ahmad, but I want everybody in the audience to know who's homeless. I was homeless in 1977, 1981, and 1985. And at that time, I had so much pride, even though I was homeless, I just called it sleeping in my car. But I was homeless, so I don't want people to look at me as a commissioner as not being a commissioner for the people. I'll always be for the people. And I just wanted you guys to know, yeah, I'm clean and sober today and serving on the commission. I'm a mechanic here in Oakland for 25 years at AC Transit. I'm a grandfather of 8, and I'm a father of 6. So I just wanted you guys to know you won't get a snub from Commissioner Ahmad.
Thank you, Commissioner Ahmad. As people are coming up, I don't have speaker cards, but I will be told the name, and we'll do it one by one. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Michael Lee. I'm a former homeless individual. I'm also proud to serve as a community advisor for the 77th Avenue Rangers, an essential life community located in East Oakland. Rangers in the house. Rangers in the house. Can you lower this microphone? Let me sit down.
Certainly, certainly.
Hold on one second, Jim. Can't see the commissioners from here. I come here today to share a few things with you. The first thing I want to share with you is the reality of homelessness is that people are dying in the streets, and it's illegal to save ourselves. There are numerous laws, specifically at the state level, 647E, which basically makes it illegal for us to engage in any kind of quality of life survival means. We have no place else to go except the streets, for a lot of different reasons, but mainly economics. The role of the OPD is in one of denying. They continually tell us, I'm only following orders, I'm just doing my job. History has taught us the bankrupt nature of that argument. OPD has the ability to simply say, we can't do that. We don't have the resources. It's not our job. Because what is the job of the police? The job of the police is to ensure public safety. The job of the police is to prioritize whether they're going after bank robbers or chasing homeless people. They have decided that their job is to chase homeless people. They have decided last Thursday and Friday, and starting next Tuesday, to continually enforce a morally bankrupt policy that takes people out of their tents. People just trying to survive, to kick them out of their tents in the pouring rain, and then turn around and take those tents and take those blankets from there. They're the ones that continually say, it's my job. The second part of this is, and the conclusion is that as homeless people, specifically for the 77th Avenue Rangers, we seem to have a problem getting them to respond. Your concern is our concern. We don't want to be dealing with antisocial elements, drug dealers, criminals, gangsters, prostitution, because that's not what we're about. We're sitting on the sidewalk waiting for housing that we can afford. And your concerns are our concerns. We don't want those people around us. But when we do this right thing, as citizens of this country, that is our right, and as good citizens in pursuit of our good neighbor policy, and report these things, OPD turns a blind eye because they say it's not their job or somebody else's job. For instance, we have numerous abandoned vehicles on the street. Time and time again, we call and say, please come and get these vehicles because it's creating a problem. We try to work with the business owners. We try to explain to them we're trying as hard as we possibly can to get these vehicles off the street and stop blocking. When the fact of the matter is that 2 weeks ago we had a gun incident. Somebody brandishing a weapon, threatening people with it. Now, we could have done what we normally would do, and that's a little bit of street justice. We don't want to go there with you on that because that creates other problems. The thing of it is that it took OPD 15 minutes to respond to a gun incident. If we would have been in Montclair, Piedmont, or up in the hills, it would have taken them 30 seconds to maybe 2 minutes. But because of the fact that we are homeless, unsheltered people, they decided it's not my job. Well, what is the job of the OPD? We're asking the city right now, to work with us to improve our community so that we can all enjoy a quality of life, so that we can all eventually find housing that we can afford. Because unlike some people, the 77th Avenue Rangers, we are committed, absolutely committed to stop living on the sidewalk. We don't want to be there from now until hell freezes over. We want housing that we can afford. But in the meantime, we are going to protect what we have and the stability that we have. And the city of Oakland and the city council member here that is here in attendance today does not want to respond to our reasonable request that we are making of the city auditor and the city council member Kaplan, then we will defend ourselves by any means necessary. 77th Avenue Rangers in the house.
I have several speaker cards. I'm going to identify several people if you can take your places at the podium. Alfred Francois Walker Wright, followed by Derek Sue, and then Esther Goolsby.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you for saying unhoused.
Thank you.
I like to say, I didn't know what to say. I never asked because I've been in trouble a long time. I didn't know what to ask because I've been in trouble a long time. I'm not a progressive parole, so I was like, what am I going to ask? So, they say go back 3 or 4 years, so don't go back. I would like to say I appreciate the officers that entered my soldiers and my campsite or tent site and treat us at our site with respect. They did not enter any tent without first saying, hello, is anyone home? Is everything, everybody okay? All right. They also informed us about available relocation in the near future, about the ships and everything. Even though they knew unhealthy activities were in process, they came to inform, not enforce. All authorities granted to those that our precious Creator feels that their service will be given in the way that pleases Him. However, the flesh is weak and the spirit inside all of us is strong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Derek Sue. I am the leader of the 77th Avenue Rangers. We are a self-organized group. We self-govern ourselves. I have been in my location for 5 years. This is unheard of, and I have, before the recent issues, I hadn't had a complaint filed in 4 years in my camp. But since the holidays, the police have pretty much left us on our own. And so we've had a large influx of criminal element into our camp. And I've asked constantly for assistance from the division sergeant who comes down to talk to us every week. We're part of the sanctioned camps in Oakland. We are one of the large camps. We have 34 individuals in our community. But we're having an influx of criminals. We have a rapist that we have to deal with. And the police took half an hour to come down to respond to my 911 call at 2 in the morning. We had, like Mike Lee said, we had an individual brandishing a gun in my camp just a few days ago. It took 15 minutes for a police officer to show up. We get stolen cars being stripped on our street. I call 911 and I'm lucky to get a response in 24 hours. I have pictures of this on my Facebook website of everything that I talk about. These are things that the police need to help us with, because there's a lot of criminal elements that do a lot of harm to the homeless camps. Women and children are the most vulnerable. My particular camp, as far as I know, is the only one in Oakland that houses children and women. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Esther Goolsby. I'm here to speak on a couple of things, and hopefully within the respective 3 minutes. I lost my housing to OPD's choices. I lost everything in the house that I lived in for 25 years at that time. I had to live in a hotel for 9 months. I know what it feels not to have a home, but the difference was that I knew that it was going to get fixed back up. And I knew that I was going to have a place to go. That is the only time that I experienced not having a home and understanding what it is to be unhoused and not have a roof and not know where you're going to shower and you can cook your own food. I know what it's like only for that short amount of time. What I see in the streets, what I pay attention to, when I drive by, when I walk by, I understand that every human used to be a child. They had a home, hopefully, because I know children now don't. Something happened to them in their lifetime where the humans are right now. We can all change this by loving all give. Give so more people don't need. Fight with love always. You see a child, you see a young adult, you see especially black people, black lives. Love them. Help them. Stop the trauma. Stop the cycle. I want to say I respect everyone in this room, and I signed up. I have to leave, but I wish and I hope I can watch it later, all the testimonies, all the passion, and hopefully the work that y'all are going to do will change it. Because I did go through it was called the CPRB then, and I felt that injustice. It was 21 charges, absolutely nothing happened. Nothing happened. 9 tear gas rocks shot up in my house, only my pets were in there. Nothing happened. I love all of them.
The next speakers to come to the podium, please, will be Jason William, Melvin Deal, and Lodi Hall. Forgive me if I misenunciated your names.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, my experience was just like a bad experience 2 weeks ago. I drive a truck, and there was something wrong, and I seen it on my dashboard, and I pulled over by 23rd and Foothill. So I had my hazards on and everything, and I was looking around to see what the noise was. I was wondering, was it one of my airlines or whatnot? And so, just like maybe barely 10 minutes, come some lights just rushing up to the back of the truck, and I'm like, okay. And so officer was like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, officer, I'm checking my truck. I'm hearing something on my gauge saying there's something on my truck, which I thought I had an error. So he's like, oh, well, this is your truck, this and that. I'm like, yeah, I drive for this company. I'm like, come on, it's obvious. And so he said, do you have your license? I'm like, well, my license is in the cab of my truck. And so I said, well, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and get my license. I'm like, I have my work badge on me, obviously. And so I was like, well, you go walk over to the truck, and he had my truck loaded, my license. So, as I walk, you know the routine, they still got the hand on the gun, as usual. Come on now. And so I slowly, I'm like, watch my hand, officer. I'm gonna go above the dashboard, and I'm gonna get my license. Watch me, watch. So I just handled it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, well, what's going on? I'm like, I just told you, I broke down right. I just want to make sure that I have some brakes before I turn in this truck. So I was like, oh, so they ran my license and everything. Well, I just want to make sure because how'd you get a call so quick? And I barely been there like 10 minutes. I barely was 10 minutes by Garfield Elementary. And you got a call with like somebody's vandalizing the truck. I'm like, really? Yeah, so anyway, I just thought that was a bad experience. I mean, you see that I have my work badge on me that says I work for the company logo's on the truck. And it's like, I don't know if I lost respect for the law or whatnot, but it was just, I don't know. Other than that, I'm done with it.
Sorry that.
Hello, everybody. My name is Melvin Deal. I'm a 58-year-old black man that's living in Oakland. I'm not a criminal or anything like that, but today I have a police record because I'm homeless, I have nowhere to go or anything like that. But I had some marijuana on me. Marijuana is legal, but OPD took me to jail not once but twice for possession of marijuana. And I don't have money. I get SSI, and which my girlfriend had to really put that money up to bail me out of jail, so I can keep hustling and doing what I'm doing, so I can eat, so we can eat. And it's just a shame that, you know, I can't just do what's right out there without OPD just come to mess with me, man. I'm not doing anything. Like I said, I'm not a criminal. I'm 58 years old. It took all this time for me to go to jail for some marijuana? To get a record? It's not right.
So next up is Lodi from the organization Hall. After that, Victoria Bell and Veronica Alexander. And then Darby Butler. And oh, my apologies. Yes, it looks like a D, my apologies. Lorelei from the organization Hall. Thank you. Sorry. No problem. My apologies.
My name is Lorelei. I work with Oakland Police Working Group.
Louder. Oh, sorry.
My name is Lorelei. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. The Homeless Advocacy Working Group. I just want to point out my boots today. I especially did not clean them for you, so you can actually see that for the past 2 days I have been going to Lake Merritt Park because there was an eviction, or what the city calls closure, of what they were saying 12 residents around Lake Merritt, which we calculate to be well more than 50. So we were moving people and helping them in the rain, pouring rain on Thursday. Fortunately, yesterday was only sprinkles, but we were slogging through the mud, moving people on Thursday. So the whole thing about the city's trying to do this fine line between the Martin versus Boise delineation from the Ninth Circuit Court, saying that as long as they have somewhere for them to go, then it is legal for them to move them. But the thing is that they really are, I'm just going to say it, they're lying. There's never enough spaces. And what spaces they do have are basically shelter beds for one evening. So you have to give up all your possessions to enter the shelter bed, have it for one night, and then you can't take your pets or anything else with you. And then on 7 a.m. the next morning, you're back on the street with like none of your possessions. So that is not an option. So unless there is stable, secure housing, and the tough sheds, the biggest thing about the tough sheds is that they people don't want to take it because they don't want a roommate. They don't know who the person is, what's going to happen. They might get raped, or they just have someone who talks in their sleep or doesn't sleep the whole night, and that's really stressful. So the whole thing about the police commission is not being the Pinkerton guard for the city administration, because they are using the police. Every time I go to an eviction, they have gotten better. They're not as rough. They're not like arresting people as much. But the thing is that they are being used as a tool for the administration to evict people because they're inconvenient. So what was interesting about Thursday is that the city administrator who came to the eviction was like, oh, I saw the thing that you wrote to the Obama Foundation that we were evicting people for Obama coming to town. That's totally not true. I didn't even know he was coming to town. I was like, how did you not know Obama was coming to town for a conference? You're a city administrator. So now I know you're lying to me. So of course they were evicting the people at Lake Merritt for Obama and Steph Curry because they want to make it look nicer. So this is my thing about just making sure that there is decriminalization of homeless people in Oakland and making sure they're not using it as a tool, because every time I do an eviction, I can show you videos of how many evictions I've been to where there are 8 to 10 cops standing around, not doing anything except being an intimidating force for them to get shoved off to maybe 25 feet. Sometimes I just have to move them from one section to another 25 feet, and that's $50,000 to $75,000 each eviction. Shoot. Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before the next person comes up to speak, I'd like to request that we don't take pictures at the back mic. And if you want to testify, please go, if you want to testify at registration, go to the mic. So we have Victoria Bell next. Followed by, Victoria Bell next, followed by Veronica Alexander, and then Darby Butler.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Victoria Bell, and I would like to discuss, I was a former homeless person as well, but I did my homelessness in Berkeley, but I've been on my own for 13 years and 7 years in housing. So, but I noticed since I came back to West Oakland, and I was living in East Oakland, that I've been arrested 2 times since I moved in November. And that were really like misdemeanors, false accusations and allegations. So like, and then while I was in jail, somebody made a false accusation that I wanted to kill them and that they know that I have a gun. I have never had a gun in my possession in my whole life. I was raised up in a nonviolent home, went to a school that always spoke about nonviolent and staying away from guns, you know. I'm really like a community-based type person. And it's just like I've been in jail in 3 months for false accusations. And while I was in jail, the police are at my housing unit with helicopters and police on both sides shouting my name. Everybody in the Bay Area knows Victoria. So that's just like was embarrassing. And for one, police officers are at their protocol. Did you see them? Or, you know, some questions to know. I'm already in jail, so you went with a lie. And I mean, now I'm embarrassed in my neighborhood. I've already been embarrassed about a lot of things. You know, so it's just like, and it's just like, and every time I call them, the way they officers treat me is like, they treat me like I'm a little girl or that like mental illness, because I don't like to state this though, but housing and the police officers know that I have mental illness, right? So they intimidate me and think that I don't know my rights. I'm very educated. Just because I have mental illness doesn't mean that I don't know my rights, that I don't know what's going on. And I tell them that, hey, like I need my lock chain, because I might be kind like to a friend or family, like we're going to spend a night in my house and do hospitality, and they might run off with something in mind, like really like a key or something. And I tell them, no, can you give me the key, or can you talk to me? They tell me to go back in the house, but I'm the one that called the police. I'm the resident here. They're talking to the person that I called on. I never got my key. My doors are unlocked. I'm scared to go to housing because they treat me bad, and they call the police on me too every time I need help. And I'm telling them I'm a woman that takes medication every night, that I have to go to sleep. I live here alone, that I don't feel safe. They tell me I can't call housing at the time. I know my rights, 24 hours, that's an emergency call in order to change my locks. I don't care if I don't have the money to bill. You guys are to change my locks. They just walk off nonchalant. This last time, just a week ago, before I went to jail, I asked them for my police report. They wouldn't give me a police report. And I had to call an emergency line to have them send out another officer so that I can get my locks changed, because mine, I don't have a phone anymore. So I'm just disgusted with the Oakland Police. I never really felt this way until just recently, 4 months ago, since November, like how officers are going to operating themselves. Like, there's no justice, no safety, no equality, no nothing. You know, like, it's really sad. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. So after, let's see, Veronica Alexander, Darby Butler, Random Citizen, sorry, AKA Nathan Carter Griffin. Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Veronica Alexander, and I'm also a formless youth. I grew up in foster care system here in Oakland. I aged out at 18. I tried to get every resource that was available at the time, but I realized everything's lottery based. I am now housed and been housed for 8 years, but it took 8 years, and I'm 33 years old, and if you do the math, you see when I got housed. The reason why I feel that people aren't going and getting the services that they need is because we've already heard from other people's testimonies. Just because you get in housing doesn't mean that the problem changes. You have to deal with discrimination with the police. You have to deal with discrimination with the people who work in these social service agencies, mental health agencies as well. And this is the main reason why people would rather be intense or to themselves versus going and getting services. I live on 14th Avenue, and I'm actually getting ready to transition out of Oakland, not by choice. But there was a growing homeless encampment that started happening. I went to the city council many a time, spoke with my city council representatives. I used the 311 app because illegal dumping has been an issue since I lived there in December of 2011. And what I'm noticing now with the growing in homeless encampment, two things I saw recently. One, I seen Public Works about a month and a half ago remove a lot of the belongings from the homeless encampment that was on Beaumont Street, that's the main intersection for Highland, over to 14th Avenue, the backside. They literally dumped people's belongings over there, moved it around the corner. I went to the city council about that, and nothing seems to be done. I have neighbors, because also, I get that the police do things. I've not seen that what other people have experienced with police, with the homeless encampment that's near me, but I have seen neighbors who get on next door, or literally talk amongst each other and come up with things to call the police to these homeless encampments, because honestly, they want these people gone. Just not in my neighborhood. And what I feel that is that police are being used as a tool here, because I really feel that the heat needs to be turned up on a lot of these organizations that are supposedly out here helping people.
Right.
These social service agencies that are getting funding from the federal government, counting all these homeless people, but yet we still have the issue. There's only 36 beds in Alameda County for shelters in the whole county. And that's not just with Oakland. I mean, Alameda County extends all the way to Fremont, all the way to Berkeley. So there's an issue here. And for a long time, I felt like the city of Oakland City Council and a lot of the administrators have long pushed the issue while collecting money on people's behalf.
Right.
I want people to educate themselves about what's really going on with your city officials and all these politicians, because you know when it's election time, they know how to talk that good game, but then once they get into the office, they don't really have too much to say. I would also like to see OPD's officers trained better with mental health and dealing with people who have mental health issues. I would also like to see funding going back into homeless outreach stabilization teams, because that's one of the ways I did get off the streets. Thank you.
Okay, so Megan Carter Griffin, please, followed by KP, and then Ryan or Warren.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Megan Carter Griffin. I'm the founder of the Wood Street Collective. We're about 75 to 100 people living in Wood Street between 18th Street and 28th Street. Over the past 5 years, I was living there, and I've lived in a couple other spots, but mostly there, and we've gone from just me to like 12 people in the tiny Greg Cove box houses to a couple of tents, and then everybody seems to be filtering down, and pretty soon we've got Ramundi Park is all filled up like almost overnight with all these RVs. And what I want to speak on is police response time if we do feel like calling them, because to tell you the truth, we're all pretty much grown up in our area, so we don't really have too many issues, I've found. And you look at me with a black eye, I know. Anyway, the police have, been cops. That's, out of all the other places I've lived, unhoused or living inside out in a curbside community, Oakland is my choice. And the reason for that is because we're left alone and we can thrive better. Everyone kind of takes care of each other. But there's people that are there to exploit us, and sometimes the cops really just, they just drive by, they go out and drive by, and it's like, you don't really want to deal with them, and they don't want to deal with you. I don't really have anything to say much about OPD. I've had a lot of things happen to me in Oakland, yet I would choose Oakland over anywhere else to live based on the community and the strength of the people and the resilience of the people and the fact that we solve our own issues. We don't need to be policed. We don't need to be parented as homeless people. We're not even homeless. Our home is Oakland. We're just architecturally challenged. My architecture is not the same as your architecture, but that doesn't make it against the law. And so far, we haven't really seen any action against us in that way. Say Contra Costa County, they're only too happy to run you for an endless warrant search and throw you in jail for 3 or 4 days and take you on a magic tour. I've been arrested one time in Oakland, and that's for having the mouth that I have. And I feel privileged to be able to have that mouth. I've got a clean record. My father was an attorney for People's Park back in the 60s and 70s. So thank you. I learned a little, and I'm very grateful and very pleased to be accepted in Oakland as much as I have been. I've learned a lot, and I just think that, you know, to be living on the curb, it's not illegal. There's no, an ordinance doesn't supersede the Supreme Court and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of the United States of America, which says this land is your land and my land and made for you and me. So we get to live where we want to live, to pursue happiness. I mean, it's basically, if I'm not messing with you, you're not messing with me, then we're okay. We can make money the way we want to make money as long as we're not messing with each other and making that money. And that's what America's supposed to be about. Everybody's supposed to rise. I was arrested on a 245, that's assault with a deadly weapon. My deadly weapon was a pair of booty shorts. And I was standing, sorting out our trash pile, trying to break it down into recycle, and I had some other person come up and offer me money for sex, and I'm not a prostitute. And I found that to be an egregious insult. Not that there's anything wrong, I suppose, with some of my fellow people doing what they do to make money, but that's not my thing right now. That's not me. And I disagreed with this person, and then one of my brothers stepped up for me and told this person to get out. The person was demonstrative, and so he got demonstrative too. They had an altercation, a windshield got broken. I wasn't the one. But 3 or 4 weeks later, I found police harassing someone in front of my house. I put my head outside of my shack, and I'm arrested instantly, not told why I'm arrested. And I was taken in for a 5-day tour of Santa Rita, as if that's going to be a problem. So I spent a very luxurious 5 days getting my hair braided and eating gray food and forgetting my sport and not wearing the right color shirt, and no one gave me any hassle, and it didn't bother me. I was released, everyone's like, oh, you gained weight, and oh, how was your tour? Look, as a free person, I've got to stand up for my rights every day, and there's going to be cops that are going to challenge that. They're going to want me to sit down and know my place. They're going to talk to me like I'm stupid. They want to sit there and try to push their agenda on people that don't understand that they have rights in certain ways and where that boundary is, and I'm going to be the one that's going to speak for that. So I just want to say thank you, and I have plenty of stories to tell, but it's not going to happen in the next 2 seconds. So anyway, God bless you all, and thank you for having me in Oakland.
Thank you. So I have KP, Ryan Ferrari, and then Max Riley.
Hello everyone, my name is KP. I wanted to speak for the younger demographic of unhoused people. I know that my peers have tended over the last decade or so to be unhoused more often than not in my community. I personally have been in and out of a stable home since I was 11, and homeless my last 2 years of high school right now. First year college student at the University of California. When I do come back to Oakland, like I am right now for the 3-day weekend, I still do not have a place to go. And I believe when it comes to dealing with any person, not even just young people, it's about how you approach them. It's about whether or not you approach them as a human being or somebody who is automatically perceived to be a criminal or somebody of danger or somebody of suspect. I think it's a general human kindness thing. The innocence till guilty thing is real. That's something that every person should have the right to, and not automatically be perceived as somebody who has done wrong or somebody who has any type of ill intent. At the end of the day, like, these are not unhoused people. These are not homeless people. These are people. These are human beings who deserve to be treated correctly. I believe if you treat anybody, especially in Oakland, I believe if you treat anybody ill-advised, then they will react accordingly. So then the interactions don't go as well as you would like them to. It's just a matter of, I personally believe that when the police approach people, they should come looking to inform, not enforce.
Yes.
That's what Alfred said earlier.
Advise.
I think that, like, a lot of the times they come and they tell you what not to do, but they don't have any access to resources or the things to do correctly or where to go, or where, like, you just tell you what not to do or where not to be at. And that's not very helpful for the people who are finding themselves in these predicaments. So I just think in terms of the approach to people and the resources that the police are given and the kind of conduct that they are said to abide by when approaching people who are unhoused needs to be changed. Thank you.
So Brian Ferrari, then Max Riley, and then Kathy Benner.
Hi, I'm Brian. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but it seemed appropriate. I wanted to ask, I have a great deal of respect for this commission, and I'm so glad that this is happening. And I find myself listening to these statements, these heartbreaking statements from everyone, and being a little worried because I love that we have a police commission, but everything I've heard about it has led me to believe that the city has not supported the police commission in all the best ways, and that the authority may have been stricken a little bit. And so I'm listening to all these stories, and I think about your mandate, and I think about how much you actually have the ability to influence or do about any of these things. And so it's sad to me to listen to this, to listen to all these stories, and think that this information is being collected to a body that may not have the ability to do anything about it. And so I don't know, I guess my question is, how much of this can you do something about? And everything I've heard is that the resources are extremely limited, and I've heard a lot of bad stories, and it would be really nice if we could hear some victory stories from this commission, which I'm hoping and assume you have, but that we don't have the access to those stories. And I would love to know how much of this you can actually help with, and also if there are wins in the history, because that'd be nice to know.
So, I want to say that we are stronger than we look, and that you've heard. We're in our second year, and we're actually required to provide a homeless policy. The policy space is our sweet spot, so we're just getting up and running in that space. So I have every hope that we're going to come up with an outstanding policy that will change things.
And do you have tools to enforce that? Or just recommend policy?
No. We have some tools we're having to work with OPD, but we also recognize that there's a necessary culture shift, and so engaging is very important. And we're going to have Commissioner Prather add to that.
That's all right. Can everybody hear me? Good afternoon.
Max Riley. You remember the Black Panthers?
Yes.
All right. I think my name is I'm next.
Would it be okay if I answer this question? I'm happy to defer to you if you like. Okay. I'd just like to answer this
Like I said
question.
before.
All right. Thank you for the question, and I think it's a very important question. I think it's a very important question to ask. This body, the Police Commission, in our oversight capacity, we get to deal with specifically police policies and procedures. We weigh in on those procedures and policies, and not only do we give recommendations, but I want to give you a success story because you asked for one. But we get to go to the city council, and we've actually fought the police department on recommendations for policies that we felt didn't go far enough. So recently, we fought the police department on a new policy for the use of parole and probation searches. So as many of you may know, local district attorney's offices impose a search clause as part of a defendant's probationary period, right? And so that means that they can come in and for any purpose without probable cause, they can search your person, your place, your home, your phone, all these things. The OPD came up with a policy in which they were going to use and implement those probationary and those parole searches. This body felt that policy did not go far enough. And so therefore, we came up with our own draft of that policy, and we submitted an alternative policy to the city council. The city council would not accept OPDs and would not accept our policy, so we blocked them. We blocked OPD from implementing this policy. That came back to us to sit down and work out with OPD what a new policy was going to be. I'm happy to say that we're currently still in negotiations with them, but just as recently as this week, my co-commissioners and I met with OPD, got several concessions from them on their policy. They adopted categories of stops, for like traffic stops, where we'll see in the final wording, where probationary search clauses would not be implemented. So you asked for a success story, that's our success story. We were able to get OPD to expand the policy and to make it more community friendly, more friendly to the affected community, at least as we saw it. And so, look, the homelessness issue is a new issue for us. OPD has presented to us and basically said at this point, the policy is evolving. They're working with the city, there's a task force, there's a lot going on in that vein. We're collecting through this process information. I think the testimonials are very important to us in terms of how we take that information and then how we, as an oversight body over OPD, then dictate to OPD how they're to involve themselves in this task force, how they carry out their policies. And rest assured, if we do not agree with OPD and their implementation of a policy vis-a-vis the homeless, we will again take it to the city council. We will again attempt to block their implementation of the policy, and we will attempt to get our version of the policies, adopted. So again, the success story and the teeth that we have in this vein, I think is, we will see from here on out. And there is an immense amount of pressure, I think, on this group to come up with the right answers. But the one thing I can say is that we fully appreciate thus far, and we expect more testimonials, but everyone's words today are important. Everyone is providing evidence for us to take to the chief, to take to the mayor, to take to the city council, right? And look, there's not a member of OPD here today. We are here to gather this information and then tell OPD what we heard, what we saw, and to have them write that into policy, or at least in the way they work with the task force. So I hope that answers your question. I thank you for asking.
Thank you so much, Mr. Riley, for waiting. Yes, you're up now.
And thank you very much. As a matter of fact, thank Taylor Church, Pastor John, for your hospitality. No. Okay. Pastor John's not here, right? Pastor Jenkins, I'm sorry. But I'm militant. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm a very militant guy. I'm 70 years old. Guess what? I was around with the Panthers. I knew Huey Newton and Bobby Seale and all of them. Okay? So my thing is this. Homelessness is political. First of all. Right? Hold on. I'm going away. I'm going to stop. Everybody sitting at the table. Who pays your money? You get money for doing anything for homeless people? Anybody up there get any kind of grants or anything for doing anything for homeless people? No? No. I see you going this way. Let's do that, and then let's share it with the homeless people. See, this is what's happening. We don't do that. Missions, shelters, get money for every homeless people they house. But guess what? They don't share with others. They just house us. What would happen if you go, well, I'm a mission, and I got $3,000 a month for everybody that I'm housing, and I've got 30 people. Now, I'm going to share it with you. I'll split it with you, $1,500 deal. Get a place. Now you can afford it. Yeah, I'm a militant, like I said. But it's happening. St. Vincent de Paul, Salvation Army. Salvation Army is one of the biggest homeless helpers there is. But guess what? Guess where the money goes? In their pockets. Everybody talks about homelessness.
10 years.
You can be brainless or homeless. Brainless is when you don't see where money is and you go, I'm homeless, help me. No, say, I'm homeless. I want some of that money. That's what you got to start doing. That's what I do. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm keeping it up. I'm telling everybody who wants to join the real coalition, which is Black Lives Matter? No. Everybody's lives matter. And guess what? Let's get some money together. Get some people out here. You see these people that are making the money, bags and all that. Salvation Army, go there and say, can I get some money too? Say, I was looking at a guy the other day, he was talking about money. He said, y'all got money for this, for the homeless people. Can I get some? They're going to say no. But if we keep banging that wall, not banging the police, because guess what? The police, they're okay on certain levels. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things too. Do we have any policemen here? Is anybody representing the police here? No. 2 sides to every story. We need them too. Because some of these homeless people, they throw shit up, they throw stuff all over the street. No, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. What I'm saying is there are 2 sides to every story. All right? So we need, next time we have a meeting, can you please have somebody who can say, yeah, I'm a policeman and I'm doing this because of this. All right? And then, no, it's okay, I'm not looking for applause. Because, you know, when you're down and you're down and out. Because I got some friends that can't even walk straight. Okay, now, let's get into the real stuff here. Okay? I'm not going to be here too much longer, but I got a couple of things I really like to say.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay? 5150. Alameda has the biggest count. Does anybody know what 5150 is? All right, that's mental health. Okay, Alameda has the biggest count in the nation for 5150s. Demographics are very important. Nobody said that tonight, so I'm going to say that word. Demographics. Okay? Look into demographics. Because you want to be important, you want to do something, you want to help yourself, go demographic. Because how many people where the poor people here? You look at the map on the demographics, I don't believe this. Jesus Christ, it's red. Okay? How homeless I'm saying. Dublin, Lafayette, they ain't got no people out there. No people homeless. Okay? Ride bar. If you really do something, ride bar. And you can see all the tents. But that's not important where the tents are. What's important is what we're going to do about it. This is what this meeting is all about. Coalition. Not help me, but I'm tired of this.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. White.
No, I got let me just finish this.
Okay,
And then I'll be
can you wrap up in about 1 more minute?
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Real quick, this will be 30 seconds.
Okay.
That was it was good news and bad news. That was bad news, okay? I knew that's good news, all right? But let's not forget about police, because they're humans too.
Well.
And to err is human. So everybody's bashing them, and I can't say, I hate policemen. I mean, if you're a policeman, get out of my face. But at the same time, to err is human. That's all I'm saying. On that level. And then one more thing, and then we'll finish. You need to hear this. Y is between X and Z. Thank you.
Kathy Leonard's up next. Rotelia Lee Nastolall. And then Jonathan Graff.
Hi, my name is Kathy Leonard. I'm a native Oaklander, and I'm here to speak about what I have witnessed at a number of our encampments on MLK, right off of West Grand Avenue. So this entire summer, I collected donations from my neighbors and delivered them to our homeless neighbors all over Oakland. But I saw day after day the police van station at the MLK location right next to Grand Avenue. And they would just be sitting in their vans, looking at the people who lived in tents. And so a couple of times I approached them and said, you know, is there a problem? I identified myself as an Oaklander and as a member of the Community Police Advisory Board. And they said, oh, we're just here, you know, seeing what's going on. And so I shared with them that it is probably uncomfortable for our unhoused residents to be watched by the Oakland Police Department. And I felt very strongly about that. And every time I saw the police posted there, and that was a lot of times, because I was going by there every day all summer long, I would approach them and say the same thing. This is an uncomfortable situation. People don't like to be stared at, to be watched when they're at the lowest point in their lives. Thanks to the city of Oakland, and we won't get into why that is. So that's what I would like to share, that I felt uncomfortable seeing them there myself. You know, people are trying to go about their lives, and they don't want to be stalked by the Oakland Police Department. Thank you very much.
Next up is Rotulia Linnell Stovall, and then Jonathan Rapp.
My journey with this started.
Into the mic. Thank you.
My journey with this started quite a long time ago. I came back 2 years ago. I worked at Williams Admin Company in the financial center that is no longer there. It's just they gave me hold. Maybe 3 days after I got here, came here homeless, lost my children in a very botched court case where our system is breaking down, where you can pretty much do anything you want to if you have enough money. 3 days after I got here, I'm walking around 14th and Jefferson, and instantly, every thought that I'm thinking is being relayed over your loudspeakers, the Oakland Recreation loudspeakers. When it first happened, it was very alarming. I didn't understand it. I mean, literally everything I was thinking, I'm like, you know what, I gotta go to the bathroom, I can hear myself saying, I have to go to the bathroom. I mean, I know technology's scarce, but if I have no temporal space, if I have no temporal privacy, I have no civil liberties. I have no civil rights. I can't get any assistance as far as housing. I've been on the street for 2 years. They tried to run me alive. Reported back to the police department. There was no investigation. They tried to kill me in many different ways, poisoning, as many ways as I can think. I took this in stride because there's nothing I can do about it, because my consciousness is still on your loudspeaker. I can still go out there and hear myself thinking, and it's not right. And I don't know what you need to do to have it turned off, what you need to do with private persons. I know there's a private owner who bought up a lot of this property, but he needs to stop, okay? 14th and Jefferson, I'm dealing with Google, I'm dealing with just about every Fortune 500 company in existence, and they're beta testing everything they possibly can on my physical being. I am one person, I can only handle so much, okay? In the process of this, we came up with maybe 20 different scenarios and how to rebuild Oakland, how to create a standard for Oakland where there is no poor and there is no poverty. I personally created a charity to spearhead this city being the standard, the example, so that we can spread. Okay, for 2 years I've been begging the person who said that he bought all this property to please give me the money from my charity. Please give me the resources that I need so we can get these people off the street. I've been begging for buses. I've been begging, pleading, crying, screaming over your loudspeaker for assistance from the city, from him, from the president. I have sent so many with documentation on the with their Oakland issue maps, your Oakland Rising, your East Bay Rising. Do you know how confusing that is when you are not a local and you're not from here and you're looking at maps and you have no idea where you are? Like you like really, and then to top it off, when I came, we're seeing the sets. I have a report, I go to John George. John George is not even a viable mental institution. There's just a bunch of people, like hordes of people, laying all over the floor, beaten, and getting medication that they don't even remotely know what it is. And I know this because I was there. And 90% of them came from the 14th and Jefferson area, okay? Not only are they allowing my consciousness to be relayed over your loudspeaker, but they're feeding information into people's heads, causing them to become violent and to beat each other. There are people dying over this, and there's no police representation when I came. There was none. There were people, actors, and your uniforms, yours, donning your cars, that are supposed to protect us, and they're not even real. I went to Kaiser, it was a set, a movie set. I went to Sutter, it was a set. It was a year before there was a real facility that we were being sent to, and we were getting real medication. It was a year before I saw John George in Hayward, okay? The John George I was in, it was like 580. They had makeshift from building into John George. And it was, I mean, it was full. These people that have suffered are still sitting over there in Savoy and in the Claridge, okay? I saw a Douglas parking lot employee take a woman this big, throw her in her car, and beat her within an inch of her life. And it took 2 people to drag this man off. And it was because she called him weird.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're going to have to ask you to wrap up, but there are other opportunities in the pathways to continue.
I'm going to have to ask you to please provide me assistance in getting a federal prosecutor, okay, and witness protection, because my life is in danger. They have been trying to kill me, okay, over this money. Money that's already there. Nobody in Oakland should be on the street because the money is already available.
True that.
It's there. When are we going to get them off the streets? When are the buses going to get out there? I know that money's here. I prepped that account. And they're my personal money. Settlements from Kaiser. Settlements from these companies. Because they know what they did to me. They know exactly what they did, and you got it on record, audio and video, because you got cameras everywhere. And I've been all over the city. Why? Because they made me walk the whole city. Every mile I walked was supposed to be area that I was in charge of as far as making sure that there was nobody on the street. To start.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Jonathan Rapp. Next, Zoe Kelly, Layette Sinan, and then Anita De Assis Morale. Again, forgive me if I'm not pronunciating your names correctly.
Thank you very much. So hi everybody, good morning. Basically, I'm here today because I live in the city of Oakland.
Excuse me, we can't quite hear him. Can we keep the background noise down? Thank you.
So like that. All right. So basically, I work at the Western Regional Advocacy Project. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. And basically, since early 2010, we've been doing community outreach to the homeless community. Initially, we had a street outreach that was contacting the community that were self-identified, mentally ill, and we just really wanted to understand what are the interactions with the police, And the story that the street outreach came back to us with the results. We have done, over 1,700 by now. This is all across the country. You know, we are based in California, but we have members in Colorado and Oregon and other places across the country. And basically, what we find out through that community outreach, talking with homeless people, what is their interactions with police, they told us the story that 82% of them were harassed for sleeping, 50 of those were actually cited, and 31 of them ended up arrested. This is for sleeping. Then we asked them about, 77% of them were cited, harassed for sitting or laying down or, on the sidewalk. As you all know, speaking about policy, the seat line law, right? Ordinance that, reigns supreme all across cities to try to manage homelessness, unfortunately. And then when we asked them, 75% of these people were harassed for loitering, 53% of them were actually cited, 26% of them were actually arrested for the heinous crime of loitering, standing still. So then we got these results, and we want to understand, we want somebody that actually can help us and tell me, prove me wrong. Like, I want to be honest to the community. We don't want to become famous, like the other gentleman was saying. We don't want applauses or anything. So then we asked Berkeley University, they had a law clinic, if you guys have heard. And basically, through our research that we asked to get conducted, they reproduced a report called the California New Vagrancy Laws that basically the city of Oakland has 11 ordinances or restrictions, as they call, for standing, sitting, or resting. 4 of them for sleeping, camping, or lodging. 4 more for begging or panhandling, giving us a total of 19 restrictions and actually 14 laws. This is just to control extreme poverty and homeless people, right? So then, talking about laws, and I'm going to be really short, and I'm out of time. If you guys want to find out what I'm talking about, I can give you some copies of the reports. And talking about what do we do with this information to make sure that the homeless community that we just talked to actually find some justice, right? And the only thing that we come up is with the so-called Homeless Bill of Rights in California that was introduced by Tom Amiano. Some of you guys might heard about the right to rest that we have to change in order to introduce it. And I highly recommend that you yourselves are gonna find that if you want to have a collaboration between the police and homeless people, having laws and restrictions are gonna put you guys in a course of collision. And the only way that the city needs to understand that police departments, laws, and ordinances are not designed to house people. That's not their role on society. HUD, the Department of Development, all the development, that's their job. And clearly have been lacked, that's another story. So please, I would recommend you guys recommend to the police department to leave people the fuck alone. Please, it's simple, it's cheap, which they love here, open the government. It saves money, not to criminalize people. So thank you very much, and that information.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right in the front, or right here, that's fine. Thank you. So I want to acknowledge that Council Member Manette McElhaney has joined us from District 3. All right, so we have Lily Kelly next, Rayette Simon, Anita Diasis Morales, and Nikki Fortunato last.
All right.
Hi, I'm Lily. I work for a local safety net clinic. I've been volunteering with the village a bit, and my background is in public administration. So I also have a question for the panel. I have 2 questions. One of which is, given how incredibly important everyone here is and how important their stories are, what are you currently planning to do going forward to make sure to capture not only the stories of the people who had the bandwidth and fortitude to come to a town hall meeting, but all the folks who are not in this room who are also affected by the police, and in particular unsheltered folks who are affected by the police. And then my second question is, how are you making sure that that process is trauma-informed? Since trying to gather survey information and gathering information in general, feedback for public services is already a challenge, but in particular you're dealing with folks who have already gone through a lot of trauma. So that needs to be a specific process that needs to have different considerations than what is normally used. So those are my two questions.
So let me try and answer them first. We mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that we are going to be issuing a hearing report after we comb through all the rich stories, both videotaped and audio taped. And then what we're doing is expecting that hearing report to inform the foundation of our recommendations for the homeless policy. I do want to say that in my day job as president of the East Oakland Development Center, we are a trauma-informed care agency. And so I have some insights to hopefully be able to provide the kind of the undergird around the policy recommendations that would be inclusive of that and recognize how traumatized people are, how triggered, they're suffering from many different challenges. And so in order to really share the kind of care that's going to help them move forward, then it must be trauma-informed.
So how is that affecting your data gathering, I guess? And that's more my question, less about the policy and more about how, even after the policy is written, how are you going to continue to get these stories, not just from town hall meetings, but other trauma-informed processes?
I'm not sure that we've thought that far out. This is our first forum. We recognize that it was very important to do it on the unhoused. And again, with the support of the coalition, it's what's allowed us to get here. I think, I don't want to say baby steps, but we do have to kind of take it slow, cautiously, and carefully, and then hopefully build upon it. Does anyone else want to answer that?
I was just quickly going to say, this is an opportunity for you to share insights and thoughts that you might have in terms of recommendations. But this time is actually for you to give us your best ideas. And so if you want to put some of those forward, of course we'd be happy to consider them.
Let me get back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, my stack is still large. Rayette Semin, Anita De Assis Morale. Are you Anita?
Yes, I am Anita.
Okay. All right, are you Rayette? Okay, so Anita, if you could just hold for a moment, we have one ahead of you. Thank you.
Hello. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
American young lady that stayed
Can you pull the microphone real close?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello? I'm an African American black lady that lives in the ghetto. And you guys can do a lot more about police. I feel that. And hopefully no one up here is wearing a vest. Hopefully no one up here in the bench is wearing a vest, because I feel trapped every time I go outside. The police never helps us. They never help us. When we try to go get jobs, kind of sign up for housing. I'm up for housing back in 06. I'm willing to work. I've got off probation, got off parole. I'm not like that anymore. The police they still won't let me in the door. You know what I mean? It's like, do I have to literally pull God out the sky and ask him to help me? Is it a dead end? Who's we turn to? I smoke drugs, been in plenty programs. They won't even house them back. Nothing's working. I'm trying. It makes me want to just give up and die sometimes. You know what I mean? I got a husband. I've been married for over 25 years. And I've had 3 houses. I have 4 kids. Thank God they all made it out of the ghetto.
It's just more work, asking for it. I don't want to disrespect nobody, so I know everybody has a heart. But just think about me. If God put women on the earth to alleviate the earth, somebody else that has food chain that can help us.
Thank you. Hi, hello. My name's Nita. People call me Nita B. I've been a homeless advocate for several years, and I myself am homeless for the past year and 1 month. I'll go through some of the things that I've witnessed as well as what I've personally experienced. I live in a camper with my daughter, and we are constantly told by police to keep it moving, even though I know that there is, you can't stay in the same place for 72 hours, but we'll be parked somewhere in less than 24 hours, you're being told to move. And when I repeatedly ask what code or ordinance they're asking me to move when it's been less than 72 hours, they don't tell me, they just say I can't be there. And that's very disruptive, especially because I try to park places where my daughter can get to her. She has a job, I have a job, and we try to get to park places where we can both have access to public transportation and not have to travel too far, where we'll have access to a bathroom and a shower. So it's very disruptive. I've also witnessed that, excuse me.
Go, folks in the back, could you please keep it down so that we can hear the speaker? Thank you. Go ahead, thank you.
That there is excessive use of police presence during evictions. And first and foremost, the police shouldn't be involved with evictions because they automatically criminalize people when they are present. There's an assumption that we are criminal and that's why the police need to be there. It also is very dehumanizing, and there just isn't a need for that many police. For example, I was helping to advocate at the Lake Merritt evictions this past week, and there were 7 squad cars and 14 police for 4 homeless people. And that makes absolutely no sense, both in police force use and how much money that cost. I've also witnessed police and know of police herding encampments, working with Department of Public Works to herd homeless encampments and dump them places, as well as picking up homeless individuals and then dumping them in specific encampments and then telling them that if they attempt to leave, to even go get their belongings. And these are individuals who live by themselves in the cuts for a reason, so they can't be seen. And this has happened specifically through the month of June and August of last year, 2018. They were going around picking up people, throwing them in the back of the OPD squad car, and dropping them off at specific encampments and telling them they try to leave to be arrested. I also know of the police raping homeless women who actually are asking them for support and help. Women have been gang raped by police in their squad cars, homeless women. And these women have been talked to awfully, called, black women specifically, have been called out their names, and because they were homeless have also been disrespected for being homeless and told that they aren't worth shit because they're homeless, and that no one's gonna believe them. But we do. I've also witnessed that when rapes and robberies and assaults or attempted murders happen at encampments, police will be sitting right across the street from the encampments in their squad cars doing absolutely nothing. And then when the actual residents or advocates try to do something to stop the rapes, the robberies, the assaults, or the attempted murders, the people who are trying to stop them from happening, both the residents and the advocates, will be arrested and charged with assault or battery when they're trying to do with self-defense or defend and protect somebody who is vulnerable. In terms of policy, I kind of mentioned one that there just shouldn't be that much police presence. Also, when we go to encampments when they get evicted, if before housed folks get to the encampments, police will wake up people by kicking the tents or hitting the tents with their batons, and as soon as housed folks show up, they stop what they're doing. That needs to stop. There are currently 3 anti-homeless bills in the code books here in Oakland, and those either need to be completely taken off the books or deprioritized, specifically if we're in a housing crisis or a housing shelter crisis, as the City of Oakland City Council unanimously says so.
If they can deprioritize arresting people for marijuana, then they better be able to be deprioritizing criminalizing homeless people when there's not enough housing. Also, I see that the police work with the business improvement districts and the ambassadors to criminalize homeless people and to push people in the loitering laws, as Jonathan from Round spoke of. And that private-public relationship between policing forces or private security to harass homeless people should not exist. The ambassador should not be there to be the private extension of the police force to harass homeless people. And working with the Department of Public Works to clean encampments and to evict encampments, actually, because the police are there, it gives the Department of Public Works the feeling that they can do whatever they want. And so they don't follow their policy. Because the police are there, they feel that they can do whatever they want. They don't bag and tag like they're supposed to. They throw everyone's things away. When people try to get in there and get their personal belongings, the police stop them. And so again, it's just the police is being used to harm homeless folks and not just, criminalize homeless folks that harm them. And that needs to stop as well. And also, this is to the audience, I'm part of a class action lawsuit. We have over 30 plaintiffs. We started with 6. We have 30 plaintiffs. If you've been criminalized in the last year by the city and any of its agencies, I'll be sitting in the back and you're welcome to join the lawsuit. We're taking this to class action so that whatever comes out of this lawsuit will impact all homeless people in Oakland.
Then Jason Wither, and then Sean Wilton.
Good afternoon. My name is Nikki Fortunato Bass. I'm the new council member for District 2. First, thank you to the Police Commission for having this hearing. You all know that the Police Department's policy on homelessness is from the 1990s. You have very, very important work to do to update that policy, and I look forward as a council member to supporting your recommendations. I just want to say to the audience, because I've been here listening, that I see you, I hear you. What folks talked about in terms of us really remembering that everyone who is unhoused is a human being and deserves dignity and respect to really be at the center of our work as policymakers. So thank you for saying everything that you said today. I also wanted to share with you that on the 26th at our council meeting, Councilmember Kaplan is going to be introducing a resolution to declare a homeless emergency here in Oakland. That is really to put at the forefront for all of us that we do have a homeless crisis and we need to make sure that we are addressing it. We need to make sure that every 60 days or so the council reflects on what we have been able to do to take action. And I'm one of 2 council members that represents the Lake Clark area. The other council member is also here. It was really heartbreaking, and it's been heartbreaking to see the closures since last fall. And the reason, Lorelei from Hogg spoke to that, the reason is because we don't have enough shelters for everyone. And the shelters that we do offer are not always appropriate for people, and that means we're just moving people around. And so I do want to work with you around real solutions, community-led solutions to homelessness. I know that it's about providing homes. There's a lot that we can do in terms of making sure that we're using public land, we're using even private land and private ideas. It's been really affirming to me to hear some of my constituents say we have modular buildings we want to donate to help with homelessness. There's a lot of resources out there. We need to make sure that we are able to take advantage of those resources. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you as we go through our budgeting process to prioritize our resources for sanitation, drinking water, and other services for homelessness, and also making sure that we're addressing this problem by creating affordable housing for everyone as soon as we can. Thank you.
Should I repeat? Sean Wilton, Jason Wither, Xanaver Brown, and then Tracy Johnston. That's it. Okay.
First and foremost, I'm Dahid. For those who know that, I'm also a vanguard.
Can you speak into the
I've
mic?
been a vanguard for over 20-some years. I'll be 61 in 5 days. I've been in Oakland since I was 4. I'm born in New Orleans. I mean, OPD is a whole lot of stuff. I mean, the police playing stuff back into the streets. I mean, I'm calling my loved ones. So I'm calling the loved ones to start coming out here. And it's do what we used to do in the 70s. As far as this committee, I think this is a good idea. I hope I hope to see some change. It'd be nice, you know what I mean? I'm a Bay Area legend. My name is Don D. Executive.
Thank you, sir. Xanaver Brown, Tracy Johnston, then Sean Bradford, then Alfred Wright. Maybe they left. So then Marcus Littlejohn. Barodia Alexander.
I'm gonna write this book already, but
Okay.
it sounds good anyway.
Thank you. Danny Gintner. Eugene Townsend. Marissa Seiko. David Britton. Oh, here we go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eugene Townsend.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I was walking my dog to the store, so I got the store and bought me what I need, you know, to get at the store.
Can you speak closer to the mic? Thank you.
So I walked to the store, and on the way back from the store, I walked my dog right, went with me. So on the way back from the store, somebody called the police and beating my dog. You know, I was puppy now, and what was these dogs for? You know, police rolled up on me and said, yeah, put the dog in the car. Then he put me in the car. You going to jail. For what? Beating the dog. I didn't beat no dog. We get there. Now you want to talk to him? I look at the police officer. No, I don't want to talk to him. Why you ripping? Because somebody told you I hit a dog? Man, what's up with this? What up with these police? They don't like us no more? You know? Bad people not bad. We can't walk down the street with our own dogs. Then they're going to tell you, you hit your dog. What kind of sense is that? You know? And that's all I got to say about the police. Police say no good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Marissa Seiko. Okay, great, thank you. Followed by David Britton, Prescott Scardino, and Juan Carter Griffin. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marissa Seco. I've worked as a domestic violence and sexual assault advocate in Oakland for the last 7 years.
Excuse me in the back. Can you please keep your voices down so we can hear the speaker? Thank you. Go ahead.
And first, I just thank you so much for holding this public forum. I think it's long overdue to be able to have this opportunity. And I'd also just like to suggest that as you're thinking about making policy recommendations, obviously, you know, it takes a lot to come to a meeting like this and tell your story. It's not an easy thing to do, and especially if you've been through a really traumatic experience of being assaulted, you know, being unhoused. And I do think it's really important that you guys think about how you are intentional about getting all of the input that you need to be from houseless people, and a huge percentage of houseless people are survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, child abuse, trafficking. It's really important that there be opportunities for people, not in a public space like this, but to have one-on-one conversations, to have surveys, to have other ways of getting their input. And I think it would be amazing if you also thought about having some kind of advisory board to help you in crafting this policy recommendation that is entirely made of people who are unhoused or who have experienced houselessness. Because it's just so important that we're not making policies about people without centering their lived experience, because they are the ones who will lead the solutions to these problems.
And I also just, want to say that I'm very concerned as an advocate about, what I'm hearing from people about their experiences of domestic violence and sexual assault on the streets. It's a huge problem, and I don't think that the city is doing enough to try to really reach out and think about ways to make sure that everyone is safe in our city, and particularly people who are vulnerable, women and girls, and members of the LGBTQ community in particular are not being served the way that they should be. And I'm very worried particularly about how survivors can be criminalized by law enforcement when they're not being careful about how they look at these issues when there's not person-to-person communication. And I would also like to echo that I don't think it's a good use of police resources to be part of these evictions that are happening at different encampments. It would be so much better if the city was reaching out to service providers, having advocates there who can work with the people, make sure that they're getting services, that they're getting the resources that they so desperately need and desperately want, as opposed to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for police to go out there and further criminalize them.
Thank you.
There are some young people in the breakout rooms that are doing surveys. If you wouldn't mind sharing that, then after you get the survey receipt, you can also receive a stipend. Anne is raising her hand. Marissa? Anne is raising her hand. That's who you should see. Okay? We appreciate that. Ali, Rashid, Jay, Williams.
I think you skipped me, I'm Tracy Johnston.
Okay, my apologies. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, I just want to quickly bring up a budget item. In the homeless budget for 2017 to 2019, there is money for dedicated encampment cleaning crew. And I assume dedicated encampment doesn't mean every homeless person living in a tent somewhere. Anyway, that budget for 3 years is $1,140,000. That's $1,000 a day. And I'm wondering how the city is possibly spending that money for dedicated encampment cleanup.
Come on now.
And couldn't some of it be passed around to the homeless people themselves to clean up? Something.
Give them a job.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Jay Williams, Zakia Jende, Jorge Lerma. I'll keep going. Lily Kelly, May Riley, Josh Anderson, David Diaz, Georgia Sue. Some of these look like that. Nino Parker, is Nino still here? Come on up. Then John Fortinet, Wilfred Hardy, Doris Rayetta,
I am Wilfred Harvey. I recently returned to the city of Oakland.
Excuse me, folks in the back, can you bring your voices down, please? Thank
And there's
you.
been a lot of talk about following the money. And it's important that we do follow the money. In 1980, the census, we thought we were undercut. In 1990, we created Complete Count Committee against the wishes of City Hall. The population moved from 330 to 370 something. The government pays us by head count. That's how you get cruisers. That's how you get fire department. That's how you get library. In 1995, I was your district manager for what we call the mid-decade. That's getting ready for the year 2000. We moved to 390. And we did this on the backs of our homeless population. We made special effort to find and count our homeless population. Why are they crying in the desert?
Thank you, sir.
Hey, everybody, my name is John Continent. I call myself a resident here at Oakland, California. I was born and raised in Oakland. Left Oakland in 2005, moved to Las Vegas, Nevada for a while. Came out here about a month ago to bury my aunt. Through certain circumstances, I kind of got stuck here in Oakland. So now I'm sleeping in cars, sleeping in the vehicle, homeless. And I just been noticing, what I was going through back then, growing up in Oakland, working for the Oakland Unified School District custodian in Berkeley Unified School District. Things that's going on here with the police is still the same. Out there where I'm at right now, there's homeless people out there, but everybody's not out there for the wrong reason. We're just down on our luck right now. They come through there and harass us, banging on the doors. I was fortunate enough to get a vacant car, while I'm out there. But yeah, they come through there harassing us, banging on windows, bringing us out the car, searching, flashlights, the whole 9 yards. This could be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And the shit is still the same. Everything is still the same it was when I left to go to Vegas and when I came back.
There is a question from a member of the audience who is homeless that asked if we would be bringing our policy recommendations to the public or holding another public meeting to present to the homeless population. The answer at this 5 minutes is that we were going to develop a hearing report before we began making policy recommendations. I imagine that it would be very important to be able to bring together the audience to hear some of the thoughts to make sure that we've captured it correctly. So we'll be following up on that. I'm going to have to work with the coalition and the commission to figure out when the timing is for that. I think it's important.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Well, make sure you signed in.
Nino Parker. And after that, Wilfred Harvey. Oh, sorry. Some of these are duplicates. My apologies.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nino Parker, founder of the Home Street Team and Lake Merritt advocate for homelessness. And there's a lot of changes that just happened at Lake Merritt. One of the questions was asked earlier by some of the village people about so much questioning the teeth of this commission. And I think I really answered, they have the right to fire and hire the police chief. That's a lot of teeth. Secondly, one of the things we had brought to the attention of the commission was the way the police department handled evictions or foreclosures, whatever you want to call it. And we brought to the light of a particular police officer that knew how to do that without making people feel like they're being harassed or threatened. And so we found out from just that little bit of information about the way things were handled, that a policy had been updated since 1996. And that was a smash bang homeless policy. It was just come in and just throw people out and came in so we could do most of the things we wanted. Policy has been asked for by this commission. It was due in September. It is late. We hope that it will come out sometime this year. Last time I talked to the chief, he said something about December, and now we're in February. But they can do a lot for us. And folks, what we have to realize that people that are most important to the homeless community is this commission. Because one of the things I experienced on December 26th, day after Christmas, I was out in front of Lucky's. I just bought some cat food for my cat because I have a home. It's a tent, but I have a home had. And some police officers came up. There was a lady sleeping outside of Lucky's, and another couple guys having a beer. Day after Christmas, no big deal. And I sat down to talk with them because I know them. A SUV pulls up and tells us all to leave, just leave. So I questioned them. The other folks were, of course, just because of being harassed so many times, they got up and left immediately. But I asked the police officers, I said, why do I have to leave? We went back and forth for about maybe almost a close 10 to 15 minutes of them telling me that I had to leave and me telling me I didn't have to leave. I said, you go in the store and you ask the store manager how long someone can be outside of the store after buying some cat food. Can you be out there 5 minutes? Can you be out there 20 minutes? Irregardless, it was 10:30 at night. There was an overhang there where people were trying to get out already and just be themselves. So there's a lot of different things that happen after people getting pulled over and this, that, and the other. But what I really want this commission and what we really need to stop from happening is our quality of life. That means when we're just somewhere sitting on a bench and you got your backpack and your sleeping bag with you, doesn't mean that some officer has a right to come and harass you or even talk to you or even make you move or even said anything whatsoever. We have to be looked at as just regular citizens everywhere we are. And the last thing I'd like to say, just in closing, is what happened at the lake. I understand the lake has a lot of issues. There's a lot of encampments in areas that are really visible, and there's a children's play area there, I get that. But when you evict another human being out of your tent, out of their dwelling, into a rainstorm like what I saw on February 14th, we're getting close to inhumane people. I talked to the city administrator asking him not to do this, because you could even wait and put it off in the afternoon when the rain stops, or put it off for another day. I don't think nobody should have the right to evict a person out of a tent on a stormy day into the rain. Thank you.
After the speaker, it's Councilmember Michael Haney.
Greetings and good afternoon. My name is Akia Day. Thank you to Regina for all the work you've done at East Oakland Youth Development Center. You're seeing you, Jose. A couple things I wanted to share. One, unfortunately, in 2013, my apartment was accidentally burnt down by my intoxicated property manager and completely burnt down. We received a coupon from the Red Cross for housing at Motel 6 for 3 days. That's it, pretty much. A couple of vouchers. I went to the city of Oakland. They had absolutely zero resources for us. Zero. That's unfortunate. The city can do better. One. Second thing I want to bring to your attention is the fact that all the sites that we see, many of the sites that I see here in Oakland, where the unhoused are living, other people are dumping trash there. Yeah. And I know for a fact, the apartment I've had for 24 years, and every year we get an opportunity for a heavy trash day. In 24 years, we've only seen it used once there. I've only seen it used once. And homeowners, they get heavy trash day. So many of them don't use it. So those resources that are being paid for by taxpayers that are not being used should be used for those encampments where people are less fortunate and they're not bringing couches, televisions, stoves, refrigerators, and dumping them. So the city should take care of that. Also, the city should provide toilet, bathrooms, and sinks so those who are unhoused could have somewhere to at least use the bathroom. You know, there's portable showers. We need to use the resources that taxpayers are paying to help those who are less fortunate. And, wow, there's so much more, and I'm forgetting some other things I wanted to speak on. But even coming here today, I am grateful to be here. I was at Imani Church. They invited me to come out as a volunteer. And to be honest, when I came to volunteer, I was told I wasn't needed this morning. I showed up at 11:30 this morning. I was told I wasn't needed, which I don't think is factual. We're giving out food in the back, and they're acting like this food is coming from their homes, giving just a few items here, a few items. There's still bags and boxes of food there. Pass that stuff out. Pass it out. There's those who need it, you know? And also, I talked to a couple other people here tonight. They're sharing their stories and they're getting paid $20 to share their story. So I'm sure they're receiving $20 to share their story, but I'm sure those stories could write grants, write letters, receive grants, and millions will be given for those who are less fortunate. Supposedly, let's make sure that the information and these heartbreaking stories that are being shared, make sure that comes back to those who shared their stories. Thank you.
So for the survey, if you want to make sure to go back and complete that so that we can have all that information there, Ann Jones, there we go, is willing to, get the survey receipt, you get your money, and then hopefully we will.
Yeah, they could donate mine. I don't need it, but I'm saying we need to really take the resources and give it to those. And the last suggestion, last comment, I also just want to share with you, if we look around the room, there's more people who are probably housed than unhoused. And if we really want to reach the unhoused, why don't we send vans or some type of carpool and offer them opportunity to come here so we could really hear from them, so we could get them here? Because I've seen more housed than unhoused, I believe, here today.
They actually did go up some.
Good. Yeah, so you can't do it, but there's a lot more.
I understand, yes.
Thank you.
They did the best they could, I'm sure. Thank you. Councilmember.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, to the Commission, to the community, the beloved community that's gathered. I want to appreciate you all for holding this hearing and for allowing our public processes to expand beyond our walls. It's hard, I think, for us to accept that we are getting better, even when our better is still not good enough. I've been on the City Council now 6 years, and we have come a long way in terms of trying to really crack open a system that doesn't know how to really engage housed folks, let alone the growing number of people who are unhoused and landless here. The question before this commission today is really about policing and homelessness as I understand it, or dealing with our unsheltered constituents. And you're also receiving a lot of information that I hope as you capture it will give us some insight into the other things, the other related issues that the council and our entire community can begin to weigh in. I go out to the camps and the not camps. Many of you know that my eldest son is homeless as well. So I come to this with a sensitivity about how many ways both the county and the city systems are broken. But one of the things that I want the commission to undertake as you begin to make recommendations is the concern that I've heard from my unhoused constituents around the need for policing. When Nita B. came up and she talked about the abuse that's in the camps, and we take very seriously the allegations of officers mistreating people, what I've heard from my constituents is that the police are not responding to the regular citizen complaints, whether that's domestic violence, violence between unhoused people, or the fact that there is criminality and gang violence in the camps and exploitation of the vulnerable by people who exploit them. So we need some suggestions around how to deal with that and address it with some sensitivity. Police officers have been increasingly used when helping people move or relocate from an existing camp that is unsanctioned, unpermitted, and unsafe. They have been utilized in some respects because public employees have requested police presence. I have been present at relocations where housed people have pulled out weapons on city staffers. Whether that's somebody who is really distressed or not in their full mental healthiness, or someone who is trying to be defiant for other reasons. But it has become a threat and concern, and one of the reasons the public has begun to see when the staff stopped cleaning and clearing
leaving the camp in place, but the cleaning and clearing aspects, because public employees complained of their own safety. And so public workers did not feel that they could go and clean safely while members of the camp communities were present. So these are complicated nuances as we try to navigate. To the speaker who talked about the $1 million or so that we allocated over 3 years and really wanted to question about the safety and sanitation, there is a real tension right now between how much we do invest dollars that are scarce into servicing camps versus how much we put into permanent housing sources. And we've come a long way, I think, between the county and the city to say we have to provide some services in place, but then takes away money from the permanent housing solutions until we get a more moral economy from our federal and state partners. So as you all are thinking about some recommendations for us, I hope that you're helping us try to figure out how we can allow for regulated camps that are self-governed in a way that we can adequately provide public safety services to, while not policing that community, but doing what we do for house communities in terms of making sure that neighbors are fair and decent and kind to one another, and that true criminals who are dangerous can be apprehended and taken away from the community. So I really am, I'm sitting here with a question. I don't know that any of us or any community has solutions. There are lots of ideas, whether they're tiny homes or self-guided villages, but the true solution to this is an economy that works and a safety net that's not tattered, where people are housed with the key and the privacy that they deserve. So I hope that you all are dealing with this policing issue, which is so critically important, and I really am looking forward to the recommendations. But for all of us, please let us think very intentionally about how Oakland can come together in one voice and make greater demands from our federal and state partners for increased resources. Because we want to see our community housed, we want to see this crisis abated across this entire beautiful state. 5th largest economy in the world, hundreds of thousands of Californians sleeping outdoors every night. We can and should do better. But thank you all, commissioners, for your volunteer time and for being here on a Saturday, and for each of you who have given up, or invested, I shouldn't say given up, given your time to this effort to help us get better and to help us be a more just and compassionate society. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we heard from Walt Carter Griffin. I have a couple of repeats, and Prescott Scardino. Other than that, that brings my list to the end. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yeah, thank you.
I can easily check your ear off about these subjects that we are.
Can you identify your name, sir? I'm sorry.
My name is Prescott.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I've been living here for quite some years, and really I'm just trying to observe nature and good energy. A lot of times I hang out in nature areas and little wild areas out here in Oakland. I enjoy them very much. And that's all that's really on the top of my mind, really. But then I've been running these streets for many, many years. You would not believe my tale. I would not even attempt to bring you through my entire story. I wouldn't bother. However, one thing I would like everybody here to know is that everything that I've been listening to from all of these speakers here is all completely on point, completely relevant. It all happens every day. I've been watching all of this stuff go on every single day, all the time. Almost every corner that you turn where there are people living in the streets, you have these same problems. Where one person is here speaking about their experience in these matters, it means that there is just a Pandora's box of the same situation going on with the same people elsewhere. It's a huge problem, bigger than we can really even comprehend. And so, I mean, everybody that's been here talking completely on point. I see all the truth here. It's really hard to get me away from my birds and my trees and all of that, okay? But this is the type of thing that's gonna bring me here to let you know that you people are on point and that this stuff is what is really important right now for people. You know, I'm a wildcat, I live in the street, but I'm not like this type of cat that's gonna be out there with his hand out like begging for change. I want some other stuff, okay? I'm not trying to bring it all through that, that's irrelevant. But what I want you to know is that I'm out there and then I see all these things and I experience the same things and they are very real and they aren't gonna go away unless we do something about it. So, I mean, that's all I really want y'all to know. So don't stop this, keep this going, okay?
Thank you, President. I have a speaker card for Terry Freeman, and I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to speak as well. Otherwise, Terry will be our last speaker. Can you fill out a speaker card for us? Thank you. Good afternoon. Can we get the mic adjusted? There we go.
I didn't think actually I was able to make it. I was sideswiped by a car. First of all, thank you so much for
Can you speak closer to the mic?
Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity. They call me Pocahontas because I'm Hulu I'm Cherokee Choctaw. I'm also a 13-year survivor of terminal cancer. I've had 6 children pass away for nothing. I was going to at least 75% of these officers, they know me as Pocahontas because I lied about my life. And I respect them. I want to respect them, and they must respect me. I've been there, done that, but I lied a lot. And really, the main reason I came here is because the only suggestion that I believe in communication is the key. I don't care what language, Korean, Vietnamese, Spanish, that is the key. If you got the sign language, okay? God got us all here for a purpose. And it's help each other. Sooner or later, God says, okay? All that, what, I have a family, poor police officer, okay? In New York City, Michigan, and what I found that actually really works is, especially the rookies, if they're foot patrol, even if they're 4 hours a day, if they don't know their environment, know people, because the things I most notice here, and I've covered a lot, it's guilty by association, and that's not true. You know, like I said, I just look like this, believe me. But I have, every day I've been here on the streets, has been a lesson to me. And I've learned to appreciate the time that I've been here, because I've learned so much from the homeless, the crack addicts, the heroin addicts. You know, everybody has a purpose, no matter what it is. The whole object, listen, don't hear, listen. Don't talk, ask them, talk to them. I have 2 degrees in psychology, maybe because I want to understand. Without proof what you bring out, I don't understand. You know, and that's what I appreciate you letting us have this time. Everybody has something to say. There's my history of Saturday, you know, and all I ask is miscommunicate. It's fine, no matter what we have to do, sign language, writing, communicate. That's the key. That's the whole, that brings about respect. And I thank you.
Thank you. Justin Lee and then Sean Woods.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Lee. I work for Councilmember McElhaney and I'm her aide. One of the basic guiding moral principles of the work that I have done while working in the city and working with homeless people and house residents has been that regardless of your housing status, you are still a constituent to be served. And that is something that I've done my very best to try to do while working around Lakeside Park and the Adams Point neighborhood. Something I think that is kind of goes with a lot of what has been mentioned is that the current police policies also do not serve housed residents as well. One of the things I tried to create and institute at Lakeside Park with the help of OPD and other city leaders was a model for community policing, recognizing that there were certain bad actors in Lakeside Park who were hurting other people who were living there, people that I had in communication with, but that there were also calls that residents were making to OPD and they were not receiving any I belongs with OPD, speaking to all the officers, speaking to the different levels and chains of command. And something that I also see is not only do housed residents want a policy in which they're going to be served, being able to receive services from emergency services in a timely manner, but that also officers themselves are asking for a clear policy of what they're supposed to do. Many of the officers that I speak to tell me that they are very rule-oriented individuals and that they do not get clear orders of what they're supposed to be able to do. They say that if they do not have a clear understanding of what their discretion is, then they won't act at all. I understand we're hearing stories about the things that are egregious that officers are doing, but at the same time, I want to tell you that from the housed resident perspective, they're being told by officers that they can do absolutely nothing at all. That is something that I find to be very problematic, because homelessness is absolutely not a crime, but illegal behavior is still illegal and must be done. Something must be done about that, right? And so I hope that there is a better, more clear policy that can be developed, that can serve everyone, unhoused, housed, and also the officers who are out there and trying to do this difficult work. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sean Lewis?
Found out about this, so I'm here. You come prepared, so I'm just tell it like it is. Let's not get it, let's not get it wrong. Oppression and injustice is not a symptom of crime or homelessness or hunger. Hunger and homelessness and crime is a symptom of injustice and oppression. So we, know that, we have this problem in our camp. I don't like to see a lot of things I see. We all have a responsibility to do our part. Take everyone here. All white folks ain't bad, all black folks ain't good. But to extend it into our community, the phenomena of homelessness because of the disparity and the injustice of not having economic solutions for a problem that I'm sure if I had 40 acres in the mule, I wouldn't be able to. This is something that's been going on for a long time, so it's bigger than this. So I mean, we got good people, judges, whatever, police or whatever, just people that's misinformed and don't have all the facts, know the truth. So the bottom line is that, the last 2 years have been real bad on my health. I was in the union for 8 years. I did, I've worked all my life and I got injured and that took me to a place where I haven't been able to recover. But if if I had the support, whatever, and the necessary tools to, recover. I mean, I'd rather have a roof with running water. I like camping, but, this is a phenomenon that's extended from the black community to the white community. Now it's something that's, that they don't care about you either. You know what I'm saying? What I mean by that is the powers that be. Okay, so, because we can solve the homeless crisis and the hunger crisis overnight. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to learn how to feed people and care for one another, you know what I'm saying? So, you got I've lost everything in 1 year. I came back to my campus, my camp, but the camp that I was in, we were informed that we were going to be able to store our things once they come and bulldoze the place. They're coming to put stuff to clear the site, and once we clear the site, we'll store your things for a reasonable amount of time, and then you can come get them. That way, you won't, things that's deemed not hazardous, right? So if it's not hazardous, okay, my clothes is hazardous, my food is hazardous, my paperwork is hazardous. They threw away everything. They didn't store shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about that's blatant lies. They come with this dignity thing and they post it up there. I'm like, okay, well, we're outside, we're out of line, gotta be somewhere. You're gonna keep pushing this building up in front of your house. So, the thing about it is that you got the mayor, the city, whoever, the police out there, they can't figure this thing out. I got many, just give me one more minute. But I'm just saying, they, create these problems and then they come and blame us for the problem. We have a responsibility. At the same time, who's there gonna make sure that the people that's supposed to help are really helping? Like some of the money and the funds go to certain things. Half of that money can be used to solve the problem if you were serious. they don't want to solve the problem. They can solve it overnight. You know what I'm saying? Really, you ask me, I got 2 or 3 dozen solving solutions. You know, I know any one of them will work. So, I mean, it's just a matter of you being next to the person that's in your office, and one person thinks like, okay, it's like these 2 different camps, right? And the camp is that I realized that even more prominently when after the Rodney King verdict. Rodney King verdict, you know, this black man was brutally beaten on national TV. Then when the verdict came back, not guilty, I mean, the world was polarized, and some people were paralyzed. I mean, but that's when I knew they were good white people, because they were swept away by the verdict too. They're like, what the fuck? That's not right. You know, but for the powers that be say that's right, then you're showing you that there's not white and black, there's right and wrong. Okay, so you're gonna have somebody that's in this position, and it's gonna take the white folks that's in their middle class have these positions up here. You're gonna be sitting next to a racist motherfucker, and you're gonna say, look, if you believe that that's right, then you're wrong. So you're gonna have to separate yourself from that person and take the position that you're a real American, and that you're gonna do your patriotic duty to stamp out this tyrannical white supremacist mentality.
Thank you, sir. So I want to read a solution. It was given to us. Is it possible for the city of Oakland to hire unhoused people to keep our blocks, porta potties clean? Or OPD to hire or assist unhoused persons to keep eyes out for activities that create harm in the camp or tent site? This allows us to do for ourselves. It can be done. I'm doing it. Go ahead, Alfred.
Thank you.
So thank you for the suggestion. At this point, I have no more speaker cards.
Actually, this man here said he filled out a card, but I think maybe he was out of the room when his name was called. So if you could
very
speak,
good.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Dan Wayman. I'm
Speak into the microphone for us, please.
a resident of Oakland now.
Thank you, Alfred.
All right. I've been out here for a whole session, and I'm feeling I don't have nothing to say, but I'm listening to everybody, and everybody has something to say. Little, small, whatever, and it all means something. You know, from a kid, I had 2 parents, but just one parent, my mother. My father was, stepfather, and they was always fighting and all that type of stuff. And one time we got into it, and I was like 16 years old, and he got mad, so he kicked me in my eye, and I lost my right eye. And after that, everything started going downhill because I started feeling like I wasn't worth it. I wasn't worth it, so I've been going through life dodging and doing all this, but I worked at Oakland Christian Center, and at Oakland Christian Center, I learned a lot about myself, because it's spiritual, and make you understand who you are and who you can be. Don't let anybody else tell you that you can't be that person that you want to be. And I want everybody to understand something. Just because, like, I'm homeless right now, let me tell you something. You know where I stay at, where I sleep at night? In Portland, where people use the bathroom. That's where I stay at. Have my blankets. I go into a clean Portland, and that's where I stay. Because I went through housing, and housing, they said they're going to do something for you, and they said you're 62 years old, I can get you a place and all that, but I'm still waiting 4 or 5 years later. And I'm still waiting. I went down there the other day, my person that I deal with is never there. Why don't you transfer me to another person? Somebody can always be there. But they won't do things like that. They have an agenda to keep you on a waiting list. So what can I say? It's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do about it. And the way I got homeless was behind what we started talking about it first, of the police. And my manager, where I was staying, I had a home for a house rented, and everything was okay till she died. And the son, see, I stayed downstairs in one of the houses, and she stayed upstairs, and she died. So the sons wanted to take over. So what happened was, the sons knew, they from that area, and they knew the police in the area. So they evicted me. I had big screen TV, I had alligator shoes, I had everything, and I was working. And all of a sudden, they came and arrested me because I didn't have a place to stay because they evicted me. I was sleeping on the porch. So they came and arrested me and threw me in jail. So, you know, that's when it's been going on and on and on and on. And every day I'm hoping things will get better. But it seems like I'm just getting older and older. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, and everybody else, there are students from UC Berkeley's Golden School who are taking survey information. Angex is raising her hand. Once you give your survey, you can get a survey receipt and you can turn that in for a stipend. It will help us in documenting a lot of information that we can, and Dino, come on forward.
I just wanted a couple of seconds here to say this. This was a great turnout today, and I go to a lot of homeless events, and the reason there were a lot of homeless folks here today is because of transportation. All events, if anyone wants to put on a good event, inviting the homeless, transportation is the key. That's why I've never seen so many homeless people in the event. That these people have put together like that. Right? They have done a great job. I know that people can do a lot of people here. So I'm just stressing that the city of Oakland or whoever has vans and transportation, when you are doing anything with the homeless, transportation is key. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Folks for doing this. You guys have my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. So I once again want to applaud the Coalition for Police Accountability. They put this entire event together. They coordinated the everything. At the end, they will also be giving rides back to wherever they picked you up from or wherever you're going. And Lorelei is in the big purple sweatshirt, waving her hands. I want to once again thank Taylor Memorial for welcoming us, and I do understand that Pastor Jenkins is now here. I also want to really thank
welcome from Taylor. Let's give another hand.
I also want to honor everyone for Pastor Brazil's liturgy of safety. Everyone was so courteous and respectful and transparent and honest, and that's the only way that we can make movement. The only way. So thank you for sharing your stories. I'm sorry, I'm a little touched now. But we're going to make every effort to, we can't help but improve a policy that's almost 30 years old. We're going to make every effort to try and anticipate so that policy in its lasting effort will anticipate many of the issues and challenges that will not be fixed overnight.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Thank you so much. And that will pull our commission hearing to an end. Okay, it's been motioned by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Dorado. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much. If you can't get to the Police Commission meetings on every second Thursday, watch us live. We need your support.